Financial issue has kept Melvin Gordon out of L.A. for the entire season. And Chris, I've written about this. We haven't talked about it much. This is like the holdout nobody gives a crap about. Isn't it weird?
Yes.
You have a running back who's good, not great, who is denying his services to his team. He's missed 3 regular season games, game checks of nearly $330,000. And, people are confused about when he has to come back. I want to address this because it's clear where the authority comes from that applies to when he needs to come back. It's not clear exactly when he should come back to be in the best possible standing, but this all comes from, and we've mentioned this before, the Joey Galloway grievance from 2000 when he was playing for the Seattle Seahawks. And the end result was Joey Galloway was on the Seahawks roster for 8 games that year. The Seahawks position was if you hold out for even one regular season game, you don't get credit for that year of your contract. That's what this is all about now for Melvin Gordon. He's got his 4 years of credit for free agency. He needs credit for his last year of his rookie contract. So the Joey Galloway grievance says if you're there for 8 games, you're good to go. You could read that grievance and the written opinion that applies the reasoning and goes through the CBA and the player contract, etc. You could read that as saying that he only has to be on the roster for 1 game. That's a very aggressive reading of it. I think the safest thing for Melvin Gordon is to be on the roster for 8 games, which means being there long enough to get through a 3-week roster exemption if the Chargers use it, which means, Chris,
right,
showing up between week 5 against the Broncos and week 6 against the Steelers. To me, that's the window to watch, and it's coming up very quickly. And people are going to be surprised if he shows up that early because people are saying, oh, he doesn't have to show up until week 10. Oh, he doesn't have to show up until the final 30 days of the season. I think the safest course for him is to show up the day after the Broncos game, week 5, and be ready to go or be on the roster exempt list for week 6 against the Steelers. I feel like that's the end game, and it's going to be here before we know it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I would like to see him be there at some point between week 5 and week 6 because you're right. If he goes there week 9, week 10, tries to do that, they could oh, you're not in football shape, or you didn't pass the physical yet, or they could pull a lot of shenanigans to say you're not on the roster quite yet, and then they can come back to screw you, and they might do that. Because they might be pissed off in the fact that Melvin Gordon is holding out and really has no leverage in the situation anyways, and they probably feel like they're in a window of being a good team, and he's messing that up.
Chris, it's business. Look,
yeah.
If you can make the argument that you still hold his contract for another year,
right,
then you can trade him, and you get something in return in 2020 in advance of the draft instead of letting him leave in free agency and get a supplemental draft pick a year later. So there is value to the franchise. There's value to all teams. This is a management council thing. Hey, the guy was only on the roster for 3 games. That doesn't fit within Joey Galloway. If you're only on the roster for 3 games, your contract tolls and the team still holds your rights the next year. And I know we're getting into the weeds here legally a little bit,
right,
but this is important because here's the thing. I have seen the graphics when I watch different networks, and I see what they're saying as to when guys need to show up, and they're just wrong. No one has mentioned the Joey Galloway grievance. He works for ESPN, for crying out loud, and they've never mentioned the Joey Galloway grievance as far as I know. That is the driving force for this Melvin Gordon thing, and the safest deadline for showing up is coming up in just about 11 or 12 days.
Yeah, yep. I hope he does it for his sake. Listen, I hope he does it for the Chargers' sake. The Chargers miss Melvin Gordon. They're 1-2. I have a hard time thinking Melvin Gordon would have fumbled on the 1-yard line going in against Detroit, and maybe they win that game. There's been their offense puts up numbers, so we always look at it and go, oh, they're okay in offense. They don't need them. But there's been a number of big runs I've seen from Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson where I sit there on film and go, that was a good run. But Melvin Gordon might have broke that last tackle and gone the extra 40 yards for the touchdown. Or he might have ran through that arm tackle and got an extra 30 and 40 yards there. So they're missing him. Whether they want to admit it or not or anything like that, it's hurting their football team. He is a special player. He's just like you said many times, he's not the cream of the crop right now at running backs. He's not an Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook right now is probably in that conversation. He's not in that category. He's that next group down, but he's still a special football player, and I want to see him get paid, become a free agent, and I'm sure the Chargers would like to see him and need his help too.
And that was the point you made about Ezekiel Elliott, and it was a great point. You know, Tony Pollard gains 4 yards. Well, Ezekiel Elliott maybe gains 8 yards.
Yeah,
and so
right.
Melvin Gordon could be playing better than these guys are performing.
Right.
That doesn't make him an elite running back, but I still think that he needs to be there. He will be there. He needs that year of credit under his contract to become a free agent, and then somebody on the open, and he'll find out. Then we'll find out what he's worth.
Yeah,
Chris, he thinks he's worth $13 million a year. We'll find out in March.
Yep. I don't know if he's going to be worth that ever, just because of the knee issues and things like that. But he's worth more money than he's getting now, and he's not happy with that. I think realistically, he's probably like a $11 million a year type of guy.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.